Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Let me just clean my glasses here. It's Friday. Welcome to Unapologetically Keith. There we go. That's Brother George Benson playing in the background here. All right, let me get situated. All right. It's a masquerade. George Benson. Good evening, everyone. Keith K.L. Belvin here. Welcome to Unapologetically Keith every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Hey, Sister Smith. You made it today, Tony. You made it. Good to see you, love. Welcome every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I am on 9:30 to 10 o'clock, but I will stay on longer depending on, yes, George Benson is the man. I will stay on longer depending on how things are going in the room or, I love old school. And if y'all are wondering what I'm doing, it is actually because I am streaming. Let me do some housekeeping. I am streaming on Facebook Live, Periscope, and YouTube Live. And so we have 3 different platforms. And the only way that I can know that on is if pop up in the chat room and announce yourself like Tony is doing. And that is who I am responding to. And so as folks come in, I like to address them as they walk into the room. And the chat room is actually where a lot of the magic happens. I just simply try to give out the information. But as folks come in the chat room, I respond to their query, and that's actually how we have a conversation. So we have a dialogue and not just me monologuing. So again, I want to say thank you for showing up. I am Keith K.L. Belvin, crisis specialist. I use all of my understandings, everything that I have as a way to help those that are in crisis. That is who I am, what I do, and who do I do it for? Well, I normally work with women and couples, but I literally will work with anybody who has problems. I currently work with singles as well as I am doing family therapy because we have a lot of children that are in crisis. So I do have children on my caseload, and I am working to build that caseload. So if you need any assistance, post the link on how you can set all that up towards the end of the show. If you're on Paramount, remember to tap that and let's get that heart count up. If you're watching on Facebook, make sure that you like this post and share it. But when you share it, tell somebody why you're sharing it. That way they don't just pass it by and be like, oh, somebody's sharing it. Let them know, hey, you need to check this guy out and tell them why. All right, let's get into part 3 of dealing with grief. I have my notes here. And it is important because as we bring this to a close, I want to discuss the 5 stages of grief. And there was a lot more that I could have done, but I didn't want to bombard you with it. And when talking about grief, it can be depressing. So I just felt 3 days was enough. And if there's more information that you need, you can always reach out to me. And Tony, you were saying old school. Yes, I am an old school junkie. It is what I write to when I'm studying. It is what I do, especially when I'm working on my books. I love good old school Quiet Storm. And I think what station is that on Pandora? That is a Gregory Porter station. And the cuts that they play just really are common. So you should check that out. Okay, so we're talking tonight about the 5 stages of grief. And I want to go through all 5. Have that conversation. Earlier this week, we dealt with how to deal with grief, and we talked about the emotional and physical symptoms of grief. And what I will do at the end is I will go over, if I have time, everything so you guys can hear it at least one more time as we go into the weekend. So happy Friday, everyone. Welcome aboard. Let's get ready to get into this. And again, remember, if you're watching on whatever platform you're watching on, I won't know you're there unless you pop up in the chat room and let me know that you're there. Let me fix my camera. Okay, looking good. All right, we're good. Okay, so number 1, well, let me go back. The 5 stages of grief. This chart was created by David Kessler and Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Now, what's going on, Flex? Welcome, 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 Flex. Now, most people you'll see, it'll be called the Kubler-Ross chart, but actually Kessler and Kubler-Ross are the 2 contributors to this chart. and it talks about the 5 stages of grief. Brother Jose, what's going on, brother? Good to have you here tonight. So we got the regulars popping in. Appreciate you guys. And the reason why I chose this to finish off the week is because this chart shows you the continuum that people are on, right? So we have the incident, we have the death, we have the tragedy, we have whatever caused grief. You might have lost your home, relationship, death, whatever it is, we have the incident that caused the grief. Boom. This is when the chart starts. And it's important that you understand that, because whoever you may be dealing with, or it may be yourself, you may be stuck. I feel you, Flex. Flex said he's at work. I got you. I'm glad you're in. Hope that we can make this work night go back fast. Wherever you are on this chart, you need to understand that, or whoever you're dealing with, you need to understand where they may be on this chart, because it'll give you some inway to where they're at to be able to help them. Okay, I hope that makes sense. All right, so we're going to get ready to get started, and as usual, you know I'm going to ask you guys if you're with me. Tony, Flex, Jose, give me a 1 in the chat room if you're ready for the first stage of grief, the first stage that a person moves into when they have a grief situation. Give me a 1 in the chat, and we're going to go forward, because I love to interact with you guys. You know that. Let me get a 1 in the chat room. Let me know that you're with me. If not, I'm going to move on anyway. Y'all know that. But let me get a 1. I always like to know that you guys are listening. And the first stage, let me bring that up while we're talking. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate you. All right, here we go. The first one is denial. Okay. And it's very important that you pay attention to that, because often this is where people will get into arguments. When a person seems to just act like it didn't happen, or just don't want to believe that it happened. The first thing is denial. They don't believe it happened. This can't be happening to me. They can't be gone. They can't be dead. They can't be taking my house. I can't be losing my job. They just don't want to allow what to happen. It is the way a lot of people protect themselves, but it is the first stage on the 5 stages of grief. It is denial. And you might have seen this yourself. You might have gone through this. And we go through this on a regular, not just on super critical things that we're grieving. Sometimes we do it just on things that we're dealing with when we're frustrated, but we're dealing with grief tonight. So when you're here at this point, you have to stay firm and understand how this is going to move, because we have to move them through this to get to a point where we can actually start helping them. Because people get trapped on this chart. They get trapped in these stages, and we can move them along, and then we wind up dealing with them on that stage in such a way that we get frustrated and leave it alone, and then they just get hardened and stay right where they are. Okay, moving on to number 2. And let me go back to number 1 a second. Do not get frustrated if in a grief situation a person is acting like everything is okay. That they do not want to allow it to center in that the grief is real. One of the best television shows ever, and you guys know where I'm going. If you know where I'm going, when we talk about dealing with grief, especially folks of color, what episode and what show? Well, no, what show am I thinking about? One of the best episodes dealing with grief, just to see where your heads is at. It is the classic acting as if everything is okay, classic denial, and finally giving in to what happened. And actually, in that scene, the person went from the very first stage on through. Well, I want you to hold on to that. It was actually Good Times with Florida Evans when James died. They couldn't understand why Florida was just acting. Okay, let me see. Tony says, I'll put it up for you guys to see. Tony says, I'm still in denial. I'm still in denial that my son murdered someone. He was in the military, fresh out of high school, good young man. Oh, okay, you can't see the rest, so I'll read it. Tony says, I'm still in denial that my son murdered somebody. He was in the military, fresh out of high school, good young man, honor student, came home on a leave, hooked up with a young man. I thought I could keep him I thought I could kept him. I thought I kept him from to come home to get high on a drug they gave him. He lost his mind. Life in prison now, 16 years. He was 21. Wow. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. And there really is no words. And I can understand why denial is something that you would hold on to. And as we go through the other stages, you probably experienced those stages too. So by all means, if you care to share, let us know if you felt these stages or you find yourself in these stages. But I definitely respect that. But I can tell you this, Tony, that one of the first steps, if you remember what we talked about back on Monday, was acknowledging your pain. And that's actually what you're doing. You're acknowledging that you're at that first step. And that is a positive step. That means that you at least are in the direction of healing. You may never completely heal over the loss of your son being incarcerated, but you can actually at least know that you're heading in a direction to get to where things will get better. And I'm pretty sure things will and probably have gotten better. But thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you for doing that. Now, number two, okay? Number two is anger. All right? Anger. So a person goes through denial. And it's, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe they're gone. And then anger. Why is this happening? Who is the blame? And they get angry because they don't have answers. And a lot of people get stuck between stage 1 and stage 2. And so, Tony, you may find yourself have been here at stage 2. They will literally just swing off. They will get angry and then deny. They will deny and then get angry. And they'll literally go back and forth. So you'll see them get real upset, and then you have a conversation, they swing back to denial. And so they literally will get caught between two stages. And when you're trying to help, anyone, the reason why it is good to know these 5 stages is that it'll give you some insight on how to try to help somebody. And if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel that you just can't help them, that's okay. Get them professional help. Remember, one of the things that we talked about was support yourself emotionally by was number 4 was seek out face-to-face support from people that you care about. So this is where now, if you go to church, you might want to get with the pastor. If you have clinical help or counseling help or a psychologist, somebody that you can sit down that can help try to move you through these stages, because you're going to go through these stages to get to, and you'll see when we get to the end where things could be better. It's never going to be completely all right. I don't ever tell anybody everything's going to be okay. We don't know that. But you be in a position where you can at least function and do the things you got to do. All right, you guys with me? You ready for number 3? Let me get a number 3. Let me see who we got. I know we got Tony here, Jose and Flex. I know Flex is at work, and everybody else is out partying that normally comes in. So you know they'll be popping in here about 5 minutes to the hour. And knowing me, I'll probably hang out with them anyway. If you're ready for number 3, go ahead and put number 3 in the chat room. So number 1, we're talking about the 5 stages of grief, the Kessler-Kubler-Ross chart. And number 1 is denial. Number 2 is, and thank you for the 3, Tony. So it looks like it's going to be me and you tonight, Tony. We're going to hang out tonight. All right, number 3, and this one can be very difficult to witness. I've dealt with it. It's hard when a person starts trying to bargain. Bargaining is the actual term for number 3, but when a person starts trying to bargain to try to ease their pain, it's not pretty, and it can seem pretty sad, but you got to hold your ground. Basically, you'll hear things like, make this go away, and in return I will, and you can put in anything in that blank space. And this is where people will start to grasp at straws. This is where people will sign on to things, give away things, do things that they really shouldn't, but just to ease the pain, just to get past what they're dealing with inside. Why is that bargaining? Because somebody else can't make your pain go away, Tony. And when you are attempting to give your power away to somebody else, you leaving yourself open to become a victim of somebody else. Now, that doesn't mean that the person is going to take advantage of you, but in the end, nobody can take your pain away. You have to be comfortable with getting through to balance yourself back despite the pain. The pain is your own. Remember, I said on Monday that your grief is uniquely yours. That was number 3 on Monday. Understand that your grief process will be uniquely yours. How you grieve is yours, Tony. What I can do is help you with that. But some people, when they're in the midst of their pain, they will literally sign up for anything. KL, hold it down some. KL. Hold on a second. KL. Gotta love a 6-year-old. So the idea is people will literally, people will give away the store, and people will do things physically. People will do things out of emotion, and it's very difficult. And this is where opportunists come in. This is where crazy doctors will take over. This is where charlatans will sell magic elixirs, and other people will look to take advantage of people sexually, because people will literally do anything if they think it's going to ease the pain, if they think it's going to make this pain go away, if it's going to help them out, whatever. And it's again, it's difficult because you're still on the route to recovery, but you're not there. So you're trying to make deals when the best thing to do is to try to fight with yourself to get to a safe position, as we'll talk about the next 2, with the last one being the better one. So I hope that makes sense. Did that answer your question, Tony? I hope I made that make sense. So hold on one second. There we go. But does that make sense? Let me see. Okay, gotcha. My daughter, hold that down. So we're going to get ready to go on to number 4. I'm sorry, I'm just okay. So like everything's going on. Okay, gotcha. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate you. So that's number 1. Number 1 is denial. People refuse to accept what's going on. Number 2, anger. They get frustrated and they want to know how this happened, and they want to blame somebody, and everybody's a target. That's another reason why you just have to hold your ground. And they may blame you because you're the closest person to them, and it's okay. Don't take it personal. When a person is dealing with grief, don't take it personal. Don't allow yourself to get caught up in their emotion. I believe it's Galatians 6 where it says, you should restore your brother or sister, or say your brother. I like to love add sister, but you should restore your brother without getting caught up in their sin. And I always hold that in my mind, because the thing is, somebody's going through this. You have to ride this out with them. But long as you understand what they're going through, you'll be able to move them through to where they need to be, to where you can actually get them to the help that they need. But often we get sucked into their emotion, and now we're responding to their response instead of the actual thing that is creating the pain. That is what is causing the grief. This is an actual state of being. And if we're reacting to that in the wrong way, we're actually hurting that person and could possibly hurt ourselves. So number 4, another heavy one, and we talked about this the other day, is depression. Now this again is a place where a person, explain bargaining. Okay, yeah, I'll go back for you, T to the Y. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'll explain that again. I have no problem with that. Let's go back to number 3. Where's number 3? There's number 3. Okay. Bargaining, T to the Y, is when a person, because of their pain, will literally make deals. Thank you. However, if a person is not, yes, there we go. Thank you, Tony. So what happens is make this pain go away, and in return, I will see. What happens is when you're trying to make deals for your pain, that's not how it works. Somebody else can't heal your pain. Somebody else can help you go through your pain. Remember, I said on Monday, understand that your grieving process will be uniquely to you. So how you grieve is on you. So a person you can't make a deal with somebody to help me get through my pain, take my pain, and I'll give you this. This is what opens up the door to people being sexually abused, financially abused. You'll have these charlatan doctors that will sell magic cures. People will, when they're in pain or they're scared, they will do anything. And they will bargain themselves into a deeper hole because of their grief than where they already are. And if you're the person trying to help, you have to pay attention to that. Be careful of the leeches here. I didn't say that before you came on, Ty, but I don't say this now. Be careful of the leeches. You will see some people that see a victim and they want to basically slide in and be like, well, I could help. And now they want to take advantage. So be careful, because listen, the wounded animal signals the wolves. The wolves will come when they see a person is wounded. Now, moving on to number 4, and we talked about this the other day when we talked about how easy falling into depression can be. So T to the Y said, okay, I understand. That's open to the Pandora's box. Said, yes, there you go. Thank you, Ty. That's true. And what happens is, remember, they're not in their best mind anyway. It will tie you to your next 4 depression because they didn't deal with it. Sorry, moving ahead. No, it's okay, Tony, because you guys are right. Because what happens is, and this is how the chart moves. So when you start off with denial, you refuse to accept that it happened. Then you get angry that it happened. Then you start trying to bargain it away, and you go, God, please, and you'll lie to God. You'll say whatever. You'll do all the things that you can. But then here's when and what happens is, I'm too sad to do anything, or you start to shut down, and people get stuck here as well. People get stuck here. That's why we talked the other day, and I said it's a very slippery slope from grief to depression, because depression is part of it. And now how deep that depression goes, or how long that person is depressed, again, it goes on to how willing they are to try to force themselves past it. We all feel states of depression at different times. We all feel depressed at different times. It does not have to turn into a state of depression, but that's on us. And also, when we feel ourselves slipping into that abyss, do we go and fight our way out? This is why I started off with how to deal with the grieving process, because you need to have a game plan on how you're going to deal with it. And this is why I'm ending with these stages, because people are going to be at these different stages. And you got to know how to manage that, because you can leap somebody from the first stage all the way to the last stage. You can leap right through that. And it doesn't happen that often where it's that quick, but you can. And you can gear somebody up, especially if somebody, say, is sick, and you know what the outcome is going to be. Well, then now you can start to gear yourself up and get yourself ready. So when it happens, yeah, you can be emotional, but you don't have to go through all 5 of these for any long period, all 4 of these all long period of time. But again, as we talked about last week, understand that your grieving process will be unique to you. And I'll go back over how to deal with the grieving process, because I believe it's important. And I want to make sure, hey, Kira, welcome, welcome, welcome. Good. I see all the regulars are here. I told you everybody starts showing up to 5 minutes to the hour, but I love it. We're talking about the 5 stages of grief, the Kessler Kubler-Ross chart, where we're talking about the 5 stages. We're up to number 4. Stage 1, denial. Can't believe this is happening to me. Stage 2, anger. Why is this happening, and who is to blame? Stage 3, bargaining, where you start trying to cut deals to get rid of your pain, and you start saying, I'll do this if you give me this. And then where we at right now, number 4, depression. I'm too sad to do anything. It don't matter. They don't eat. They don't want to wash. Who cares? I don't need to go to work. And all of a sudden now they're so depressed that their world is starting to warp into something different. Now it is very important because this stage right here, people get trapped. This is a trap stage here because if you don't deal with it, it doesn't get better. When a person is feeling depressed, it can turn into a state of depression. So please understand the difference. We all will feel depressed at different times for different reasons when dealing with grief. But if we do not give in to it, we can beat it back. But some people give in to the depression and now they are into being depressed, and it turns into a state of depression, which then has its own ills and can create very deep forms of damage to the person going through it. So I wanted to make sure that you pay attention to that, because the idea is, along this chart, we have to find where we're going to get in to try to push that person forward. When I say push, I'm not talking physically push. Don't put your hands on nobody. But what I'm saying is, once we can understand, again, I'm going to go back to how to deal with the grieving process. And again, the reason why I started off with that on Monday, and then I started with Wednesday, the emotional and physical symptoms, because these are all the tools that we're going to use as people are flowing through this chart. Because people land somewhere, they're somewhere on this chart. Now, are you ready for number 5? All right. And I'm going to go back over the others from this week. If you're ready for number 5, throw number 5 up in the room. We got Kira and T to the Y, and you must add the Jones is in the house. We got Sister Tony in the house. I know Brother Flex was here, but I know he's at work. Brother Jose was here. I don't know if he left us, but Brother Jose was here as well. So I appreciate you guys for being here. So we want to go to number 5, the last stage. So please throw a number 5 in the chat room, because again, I appreciate you guys being here, because we need to understand these stages. There we go. Tony's ready. All right. Kira, you ready? T to the Y, you ready? All right, here we go. Now this is when we get acceptance. Number 5, acceptance. I am at peace with what happened. Now, I'm going to use myself because I love to be transparent. June 25th, you guys that was on with me that Thursday night heard me lose my mother that night. Well, you heard the start of it. You didn't know that my mother passed, but you heard my sister call and she was frantic, and they were working on my mom as she was talking to me on the live. So when I got off, my mother passed maybe a half an hour later. And when I went back to go on video, I was calm because I had already made peace with the idea that I'm in Delaware, my mother's in New York, and I knew that my mother wasn't doing all the things. Tony, you remember? All right. I knew that my mother wasn't doing all of the things that she was supposed to do to take care of herself, but she didn't have any heart issues. The heart attack came out the blue. It might even be COVID. But one of the things that I had said to my mom, and I'll be transparent, I have no problem sharing with you guys, is that for 4 years now, I have been telling my mother, come and live with me, because I felt getting her out of New York, getting her into the country, I thought would have extended her life. Well, now we'll never know because she's no longer here. But once she said no, and her reasoning, it really didn't make any sense, but she's a grown woman and she didn't have any psychological issues. So if that's what she wanted, no problem. So I had said to myself, with that being the case, and I know my mother had some other issues, but it wasn't nothing connected to a heart attack. And she had lost weight. She was doing good. And we still don't know what caused her death. And it might be COVID related. Either way, when I got the news, my sister was frantic. Oh, both sisters was ridiculously just out of it. I was, and I still have been calm. And I have not cried, and I have not gone through any of these things here, and I'm not in denial. I know she's gone. I'm at acceptance, and I was at acceptance that same night. And I have been, thank you to the Y. And if you remember that thing, I was calm, and I was built this way. It was the same way when my grandmother passed. I think I got emotional The day we found out, it was the 5th. My grandmother passed on the 3rd. I remember I was sitting there and I got emotional, and it's a funny story. Okay, let me tell you this right here. My grandmother passed on the 3rd, right? Now, my wife and I had lost a child 8 years earlier. She had a miscarriage. So on the 5th, we were living in the house where my grandmother lived up above us, and my mother lived. We had a 2-family home. My mother lives in the other part of the home. My wife and I had the basement. And I'm sitting there and I was thinking about my grandmother, and I was thinking about how the cancer just ravaged her body. And what I was crying about was not her dying. I was crying because I just watched this disease just tear down one of the strongest women that I have ever known. So I was emotional about it. I was sitting there. So my wife comes over to comfort me. She puts her arms around me, and I didn't notice that she had put the pregnancy test down on the table. So I'm crying and she crying. Everyone grieves differently. The way you handle it was definitely different. I've gotten to fights with the way I handle death, because I tell jokes, believe it or not. I laugh and joke at funerals, and I tell jokes, and people get very, very offended. I have been cursed at. I have been treated badly because I don't react to death like other people. That's why God built me to be a crisis specialist. But okay, so I'm crying and my wife is crying. And then I'm wiping my eyes. And I'm like, you okay? And she's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm just thinking about my grandmother. She said, oh, your grandmother? I thought you was crying because you was happy. I was like, crying because I was happy? What are you talking about? And then she actually showed me the pregnancy stick. And it was like, oh, and I'm like, you're pregnant? She's like, yes. I thought that's what you was crying about. I said, I didn't even see the stick. So now I'm crying again. And yes, the 5th, my grandmother passed on the 3rd. And on July 5th is when we found out that we were having KL. And so my grandmother was gone before KL was born. But it's just, again, I wasn't crying because she was no longer here. I was crying because how she left. Replying to Kira, yes, I'm waiting on the Zoom so we can all participate. Yes, you know what it is? I'm going to move to Zoom eventually, but what happens is I got to make sure I put that information out, because we're on 3 platforms, Tony. So if I go to Zoom, I got to move those people over to one spot, because right now we're on 3 different platforms. And so I think Patty was on Periscope, and then people watch on YouTube as well. But I definitely will set up a Zoom conversation. I would love to. So I tell you what, all you got to do is hit my inbox and say you're ready. I already know that. So Kira and Tony, we can definitely have a Zoom conversation. Love to invite all of you, because I'd love to see your faces, and we could definitely do that. But it's definitely, for me, how I deal with death. And so I've always been that way, because I'm not a big fan of funerals. I'm not, because I just don't like seeing anybody in that state. They're gone. And I don't want those memories. I like my memories of the person intact, because I'll give you this, and I'm going to go back over the 5 stages in a second. I want to go through acceptance. Is that any person that you love, that you went to their funeral, no matter how much you think about the past and how much you love them, somehow that memory always pops in from how you've seen them in that situation. I don't want that. I don't need negative reminders. I want my memories, and I know I'm being selfish with what I'm saying, but I want my memories of how I love the person. And in the case of my grandmother, I had enough seeing her deteriorate, because the cancer ripped through her quickly, and it was just bad. So to see her in state didn't do anything for me. But I'm stuck with that, so it is what it is. And I had already said I don't want to see my mom in that position, so it just kind of worked the way it did. No, I didn't go to the funeral or the services, anything like that. I wasn't traveling to New York and put up a fight with COVID, because they were having things over a 2-day period instead of 1, and I was not staying in New York for 2 days with this pandemic going on. And anybody who had an issue with it, fight me, because I'm not putting my family. You don't put the living in danger to try to celebrate the dead. You don't do that. You let the dead take care of the dead, and you let the living take care of the living, and you don't forget that there's a pandemic because of symbolism when the body is nothing but a shell. That's just me. Don't get offended. So, number 5, acceptance. When you are at peace with what happens, when you have gotten to that point that you are okay with understanding that this happened, you're okay. And that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean that you're going to have you're not going to have negative memories. It doesn't mean that you're not going to hurt, but you're not grieving. You accept they're gone. And if you're a religious person like I am a man of God, so I'm going to say they're with the Lord. Well, we're going to pray they're with the Lord. Or as you hear a lot of people say, they're in a better place. We pray that they are in a better place. But that's when we've accepted and we say, well, and for me, one of the things that I put up in the Bible study group, as well as I put on my page, is that there are scripture that speak to that. And there's a story of David with his child that he had with Bathsheba when he cheated and had a child. The child was dying, and David was praying and praying and praying and praying and crying and praying and crying and praying. 7 days, the child died. David got up, cleaned himself off, went and got something to eat, went on about his business. His people were like, but your child just died. How are you not emotional? He said, listen, God rendered his decision. For the 7 days, I cried and I begged and I cried and I begged, but then the Lord said, that's it. And David was okay with it. And I understood that. And with my mom, I was there and I have been there and I'm cool. Do I wish I had my mom here? Of course, I'd like her to be here, but I don't want her back if she was going to be in pain. Would I have liked to prevent the heart attack? Of course, because I'd rather have my mother amongst the living. But if God has rendered his decision and I wasn't even in New York to even attempt to prevent it, then I have no choice in my mind. And again, not everybody's going to agree with me in my mind, but to get to acceptance as quick as possible, because if I'm stuck in these other 4 stages, then I'm not in a position to help other people who are still here. Now, again, that's me. I'm wired differently, and I understand that. But at the same time, I'm here to teach and to help other people understand what that looks like, because if I can get there, you can get there. Now, you're going to get there at your own time, and you're going to work your way through this chart at your own pace. But what I want you to listen to and what I want you to check is if somebody is stuck and can't make their way through. Let me see what Tony says. I agree. Had an invite today to go to the cemetery and out to dinner for my niece's birthday that was murdered 2 months. She's no longer here. No social distance gathering today. Today was it not wise? I want to make sure I read that right. I agree. I had an invite today to go to the cemetery and out to dinner for my niece's birthday that was murdered 2 months. She's no longer here with no social distancing gathering today. Was it not wise? Did you go out? Or I remember her by being a voice for survival. Yes, there you go. I mean, here's the thing, Tony. I'm not going out and being amongst people to celebrate when I don't know what other people have been doing with themselves. I have not been sitting in this house for 22, 21, 23 weeks, listen, since mid-March. I've gone out into the community replying to, replying to Tony, my condolences. Okay, there you go. I'm glad you guys are talking as well. My thing is I've been in this house 21, 22 weeks, whatever, since mid-March, okay? So 2 weeks of March and 4 weeks of April, 4 weeks of May, 4 weeks of June, and here we are in July, so that's 12, something, 18, whatever it is. I'm not going out just to be out, to say I'm out. I don't miss restaurants. I don't miss none of that more than I love my life. And I know people are just so frustrated and they feel they got to do it. Ain't no drinks, ain't no food that I need to have that's worth me risking getting this virus, because the fact that there is no cure, I don't want no parts of it. I don't want to come in contact with it at all. I don't even want to get tested because I ain't going nowhere. I'm right here. My daughter's in the house with me, and my wife comes in every day and she washes and everything before she comes back, because she's an essential employee, because she's an HR supervisor. But at the end of the day, we don't go nowhere, because I'm not putting myself in proximity to this virus, because one, it knocks off big folks because it can create blood clots. And the worst thing to a person of size is blood clots. That's the reason why your doctors, when you're a person of size, doesn't want to perform surgeries, because they got to get in and get out, because the larger the person, the harder it is to keep that blood flowing and to make sure blood clots don't form. And even then, you got to make sure that you get a big person up and walking as soon as they come up out of the anesthesia, because you got to get that heart going. You got to get them moving. You got to get that blood flowing, because you don't want clots to form. Well, I'm not going out there and messing with a virus that creates blood clots. Oh, no. And you can call me a sucker. You can call me scared to death. I want to live. So I'm not messing with this just for no funeral, for no birthday party, for no nothing. And I have my groceries. I still use Instacart and have my groceries brought to my door, which I come in and we wipe everything down, and we go and have been using Instacart for a minute because we're just not going out here and messing around. Because these are the things that you have to do. Now, with the 5 stages of grief, guys, let me go through it again. And I appreciate you, Tony and Kira and Flex and T to the Y. Stage 1, denial. Okay. How could this happen to me? This couldn't happen to me. No, they're not dead. No, you're not firing me. Anger. Why are you firing me? What do you mean they're dead? And they lose it. And then bargaining, number 3, where you start trying to make deals as if that's going to help ease the pain. And then when none of those 3 work and you're still not there, depression. But understand this, please put a pin in this, please write this down. Depression is what we feel. A state of depression is what we can move into. See, we all feel depressed at different times for different reasons. But if you allow your body and mind to move into a state of depression, now you have a whole set of new issues to deal with that become harder to shed to get back to some type of normal. And that normal is called homeostasis. It means the body's ability to get back to balance, back to neutral. Your body is always trying to get to a neutral place. And on that pendulum of health, we're either optimal health, which means we're at the best health we could be, or death, which is the worst health that we could be. And everybody is on that continuum. Now, that still doesn't mean that you can extend your life any longer, but optimal health does give you a better opportunity. So if you're in the best shape possible, you give yourself more of an opportunity, but there's no guarantees, anything. God takes in shape folks as well as out of shape folks. And there's some out of shape folks that are still shocked that they're here when there's some in shape folks that left here a long time ago who worked out every day and did everything right. So there's something to be said either way. And then once you get past the depression, number 5, acceptance. When you can get to the point that you acceptance, for me, it's at that point where I go, God, I'm giving it to you. I'm good with it. You've rendered your decision. It's okay. And as a crisis specialist, I'm okay with this chart because I ask people to give me that emotion. I'm an empath. Give it to me. Share with me your pain. And I will walk you through this, help you through this. And then once we're done, I'll expose of it. I'll get rid of it. I'll take the trash out. Now, there are days that I sit here and I'm emotional because of what I see in other people. I get emotional over commercials. But the reason why I do is because that's what allows me to be an empath. So when I sit with you and you tell me whatever the tragedy is, I will remain calm and I will listen, and my brain works at the same speed that it works when I'm just sitting and chilling. And now we can figure out a way to get stages to get you to accept that the grief is real, that it happens, what it is. Now let's go. Here's what we need to do daily. Here's how you're going to do it. This is what you're going to need to do. Now, let me go back through the chart from Monday because I want you now to see how it's connected. And when you see how it's connected, you'll see that I laid it out in a way that as you listen to what we do here, it'll move you in a position to be better equipped to help those that might, especially during these times of COVID. And Lord knows the number that, and you guys that are in my Bible study group know the number of deaths that, I put up. I know it's number 34. If you want to add my mom, 35. And we go from there. But remember Monday, we talked about how to deal with the grieving process. And this is how you would help somebody deal, or how to deal with it yourself. And you'll see how it connects part that we just went over. 1, acknowledge your pain. Once you acknowledge your pain, that helps get past the denial. Think about it. Number 1 on the deal with it was acknowledge it. Number 1 on the chart was denial. So automatically by acknowledging your pain, we push denial. Accept that grief can be different, unexpected emotions. Again, that one again helps us push back through the stages here. Number 2, accept that grief can trigger many different unexpected emotions. Number 3, understand your grieving process will be unique to you. So again, as we look at that, person is in the midst of all 4 of these stages. We get that. That's them. Okay, so they suck their thumb, they get angry, they beating on the walls, whatever that's uniquely them, we see it. Now we got to figure how we reel them in to get them to where they can accept what's going on so we can start to fix them. Help them fix themselves because we can't fix them. They got to let us help them. Number 4, seek face-to-face support from people you care about. This is no time to leave a person alone. And they'll tell you, just leave me alone. I just want to be alone. Hear that, but don't acknowledge that completely. Let them rock, but you check on them. And you know why you check on them? What's floating around the corner? Depression. Remember, that list has depression on it. So when somebody tells you, I don't want to be bothered, just leave me alone. Respect it, but peek in on them. Respect it, but show up the next day. You hungry, girl? You hungry? I brought you some food. Respect it. Hey, how come you ain't clean your house? Come on, let's do this. Because if we know that on this chart of grief, the stages of grief is depression, you don't leave that person alone until they get the point of acceptance. Because you don't want to find out that because they couldn't purge themselves of the negative feelings, they decided to join the dead. And that has happened. We hear people say they died of a broken heart. We hear people say, oh, he couldn't live without his wife or his husband. Whatever it is, we know that these 4 stages before they get to acceptance are not pretty. So now another way to deal with the grieving process is to support yourself emotionally by taking care of yourself physically. Are they eating? Are they exercising? Are they just getting up and moving around? I have watched people waste away because of not knowing how to deal with their grief. They don't eat. They just sit there. They don't even wash. They don't want to do nothing. So they're literally trying to die. Literally trying to find a way. And again, that's that number 4, that depressive state. They don't care anymore. They've given up. So now they went from being depressed to slipping into a state of depression. Another way to deal with the grieving process is recognize the difference between grief and depression. Now you may say, well, Keith, depression is one of the stages of grief. It is. But again, depression is when we have moved into a state of depression. Right now, this says the 5 stages of grief, which means feeling depressed. But once it turns into a state of depression, well, there's different stages of depression. And I'm not about to go through those because that's for a psychologist. I'm not even going to attempt that and mess that up and give somebody any type of wrong information, because when you're dealing with depression, you're dealing with a bigger monster. And I mean a big monster. Don't comb hair, but yes, exactly, Tony. And we got to pay attention to that. These are the signs that they're slipping out of grief into depression. Remember, we all get depressed. It's a human characteristic. But once you don't stop that slide, you slide right into a state of depression. And now we're in a much worse place. Now, also on Wednesday, we talked about the emotional and physical symptoms of grief. And again, what this does is that it gives us an opportunity to look at how a person may react physically and how a person may react emotionally. So I'll deal with the emotional first. Wednesday, we talked about shock and disbelief, sadness, guilt, anger, fear. Those are the emotional symptoms. And you'll see those given off between denial, anger, bargaining, depression. You will see shock and disbelief, sadness, guilt, anger, fear. You'll see that all in there. Again, pay attention to it. Be prepared. Be ready for it. The physical symptoms, fatigue. Person may say they're just tired, just everything hurts. They're telling the truth. Don't say all it's all in your head. It's not. These are physical symptoms of grief. Nausea. They all of a sudden now can't hold nothing down. They're thrown up because they are not settled. Their insides is all over the place. Lowered immunity. What did I say to you on Wednesday? If you're in the midst of this grieving and we don't help fix them, they could be lowering their immunity, which then could be exposing them to COVID. And these are not the times to allow your immune system take any type of hit knowing that you could actually be inviting the devil into your house. And now the one thing that was built to help save you is now actually not working the way it was supposed to be. That is dangerous, and we need to pay attention to that. Unexplained weight loss or weight gain. That means the body is not doing what it's supposed to do, which then opens up the door to a lowered immune system, which then could all persons slip into a depression because now they are unhealthy physically, they are unhealthy emotionally, they could be in a very bad place. Aches and pains, and of course the last one was insomnia. If you see that they're not sleeping, fix that. Find a way to change that, because not having any sleep is like doing drugs. That's why if you try to drive after not having any sleep, it is the same as drinking and driving. So guys, I want to tell you thank you so much. I'll answer any questions that you have, but if any of the things that I talked about tonight, I hope that I brought some type of value to you tonight, and I hope that I bring value each time that I come on. I try to make sure that I bring information to the table that is usable today. I don't try to bring anything that you don't understand. I try to make it clear. So I hope that I've been able to do that for you, Tony and Kira and Flex and Ty and Jose. I hope that that's what I bring to the table each time you guys show up. If you or anybody else that you know needs direct conversation, if a marriage is going through it, if somebody is single and struggling with trying to find focus, if somebody's out there struggling with their child but needs some assistance on maybe what to do, give them my information. Here it is right here. Have them set up a free call with me. The discovery call is free, and then we'll see what I can do. Maybe one of my books is enough for them, maybe actual counseling sessions, whatever it is. But we're going to see what happens. And Tony, you came up with something pretty good. I am going to have a Zoom night. I'm going to invite everybody over to Zoom. What I I'll do is upcoming shows, I'll announce it. That way it's announced on all three platforms. And then I will move over to Zoom and all you guys show up so y'all can see me and I can see y'all. And we could do it that way too. I don't have a problem with that. I actually would look forward to that. I would enjoy it. You like to discuss domestic violence, okay? Any particular area in domestic violence? Is there anything that you want me to particularly cover? Or you would like to have that in a Zoom conversation? Are you saying that you would like to discuss domestic violence in a Zoom conversation? Because I can put my thinking cap on and make sure I put some things together for that conversation. That would be actually interesting. I've dealt with domestic violence a few times in terms of the counseling, and that's a difficult one too. That's a tricky one because there's so much that can go into that. So a lot of it is, but I will definitely do some research and put some things. No, you can talk about it. Okay, I got you. Yeah, I'll definitely put that down, and I'll look up some things that I can actually bring to the table that I think would be great to cover. Some things that I think could help to recognize it. Why women and men stay? Yeah, that's the usual question. That right there, Tony, is a tricky one because a person's history, they may be used to being abused. They may search for someone, like if they were abused when they were a child, often they'll look for people to date that resembles what they're used to. There's so many areas, so many nuances to why people stay. There might be exclusion where the person has separated them from their support systems. There might be mental abuse where the person has made them feel less than they really are, so they just stay because they believe. Oh, it's definitely happening. Child abuse and domestic abuse. Child abuse is up 200% in the country since COVID has forced everybody into their homes, and domestic abuse is up, I think, 250% since everybody has been forced into the house. And because people are not being able to deal with this crisis, they're taking it out. And you always, if you're out of control, you hurt the person close to you. So children are being abused all over the country. and domestic abuse is up, just domestic violence is up. This is one of the reasons why they want to try to get the schools open, because if they can get back to just some things being normal, they figure those numbers will come down. The problem is this monster is real, and if you're sending kids out to, it's been a minute since I actually had to teach any type of what's name on it. Yeah, it's sad, Tony, but I think that's why I do what I do, with the hope that I can get people to actually reach out. The sad part is, especially for my brothers and sisters of color, is that I can't get them sometimes to take counseling serious. Some of them will spend a ton of money on clothing and other stuff, whatever. But then when you say, here's what I charge for a session, they freak out and lose their mind. And counseling doesn't work if you have to force somebody to come. That's not how it works. Nothing comes from that. See, counseling is something that has to be accepted. Because if they're stuck in the bargaining stage, they'll just simply, I'll come if you just leave me alone. That's not going to work. Then don't come. I need people who are willing to accept that they want to be there. All right, real quick before I close out tonight, I want to again say thank you to all of you. Make sure that you share this. Make sure you post a little note on why they should share this. But now, all of you that have access to children, let me show you how I use this chart to when I was working with kids, right? So when I was a dean, kid would come out in the hallway, or I'd catch a kid, he was fighting or whatever it is, and the kid would be in my office, and I'm doing my little investigation. I already know the kid is dirty, got in trouble. He's going to get in trouble. So I would go, why'd you do what you do? First, it would be denial. No, Mr. B, I didn't hit nobody. I didn't cut class. I didn't push that teacher. I didn't do whatever. And I would just sit there and look at him. And I would ask again, let's say the kid pushed the teacher. Why'd you push the teacher? Then they get angry. What you keep asking me for? I told you I ain't do it. And I'd sit there and keep looking at him. And I go, whenever you're ready, you want to tell me what's going on? Because you know you're going to get in trouble. All right, come on, Mr. B. Now here's the bargaining. Come on, Mr. B. I don't want to get in trouble. Listen. All right. If I tell you, right, can I get out of getting suspended? Now they're trying to cut deals. And I would hold my ground. You want to tell me the truth on why you pushed the teacher? And they fall back on the chair. They fall back on the couch that I had. Yo, this don't make no sense, man. I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to get in trouble. Yo, my mom going to kill me. I'm going to get that. And then now they're all depressed. And I'd sit and wait. And I go, you going to tell me why you pushed the teacher? All right. I'm going to tell you. Yo, I got mad. See, and you wait them out and you can get to acceptance. So understand that this chart, these emotions that we go through, we all go through. But when you're working with kids, trust me, kids don't even realize that they're going through it. Stand your ground. You can get there when you need to. It's going to take some patience, because often we'll react to the denial, we'll react to the anger. Don't react to any of that. Just hold your ground and you'll get them to where you need to be. So it's 10:30, guys. I don't want to keep you any longer. Tony, thank you. Kira, thank you. T to the Y, thank you. Jose, thank you. Flex, thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you showing up. Our brother's actually tired tonight. I had 2 counseling calls today. I've been up since like 7 o'clock this morning. I'm going to listen to an audio book, and I was going to do some writing, but I'm going to hold off. I'll do that this weekend. And I just want to say thank you, guys. I'm trying to show up. I'm trying to make myself presentable so people can learn that I'm here. My counseling business is official now. It is official business here in Delaware. I'm just waiting for my business tax ID, but I'm here. And if you need to talk to somebody, please reach out. Do not feel that you need to hold on to your pain that you're going to get through. God has given me a unique set of skills. Like in the movie Taken, I have a unique set of skills. Take advantage of them. I'm offering them. Good night, Tony. Appreciate you. So again, please like this, please share this, and please have a great weekend and be safe. And if you go out, put your mask on. It's no joke out here. And I simply want to say this. There we go. And I'm going to close with saying to you, remember, I believe God has given us everything that we need to fix all the problems that we have. And the reason why I believe that is because when you and I work together, and we all work together, we can fix everything that's going on. Hence, that's why my hashtag says we can fix this. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you on Monday. Tony, I will take your suggestion into consideration. I'll post something Saturday or Sunday of what the subjects are going to be for next week. We might do that. And I think maybe sometime next week, I'll put the word out there for a Zoom chat so we can all get together and have a conversation. I think that would be great too. And I'll give you that information. You guys be safe. It has been a pleasure. Thank you again. May the Lord bless all of you.